Hi, my name's Ken Artizone. I'm here again with the baseball analysis of baseball records. I've done 3 other videos on a YouTube channel I have. I did the top 50 greatest offensive players of all time. Then I did another video, the top 50 starting pitchers of all time. My third video was on the 17 greatest achievements by a baseball player in one game. And now this is my fourth video on baseball. I'm going to talk about baseball records that have been set to the last 150 years of Major League Baseball. Again, I want to tell you I'm a Mariner fan. See the Mariner hat? Let's get started. I'm not going to include players who took steroids because their stats are questionable. I hope these players make the Hall of Fame because a lot of them did set records on their own, but I didn't include them. I included the ones who legitimately set some baseball records. And I'm mostly focused on the offense, no defense records, and also nothing negative. For example, pitchers who gave up home runs and all that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay strictly with records that are positive. See if you like my list. And I've got a lot to talk about. Let's see how it goes, okay? Stay with me. Let's start off with career batting average. Who has the highest? You should know. But in this category, you need to have at least 1,000 innings under your belt, or 3,000 plate appearances, or over 500 games. So who's the top 10 in career batting average? You should know number 1, Ty Cobb, 366. Number 2, Roger Hornsby, 358. Number 3, Shoeless Joe Jackson, 355. Only played 13 years, but you know the story of him. He got caught up in the Black Sox scandal 1919, and he was suspended after that season and could not play baseball again. But he had a career 355 batting average. He says he was innocent. The only problem I have is there was $5,000 in your hotel room under your pillow. So, Joe Jackson, if you're innocent, why is that money under your pillow? But anyway, a good player. 355. Number 4, Lefty O'Doul. Played 11 years. 349 career batting average. Number 5 on the list, Ed Delontianti. 345. Number 6, Tris Speaker. 344. Number 7, Billy Hamilton, 344. Number 8, Ted Williams, 344. Number 9, Dan Brothers, career, 342. And coming in at number 10 on the list, the Bambino, the Sultan of SWAT, 342 career batting average. So that's a remarkable achievement, wouldn't you say, for a career? And most of these guys played 20 years, some 19, some 22. That is for career. And then for the season, what is the batting average record for one season? It happened in 1894. You may question, well, that's old school. But they did play baseball back then. This guy got 1,616 at-bats, no fluke. He had 237 hits, and he batted .440, which is a record for one season. Hugh Duffy. Well, it's the batting mark for one season, .440. Okay, let's move down on my list as far as baseball records. How about these records? Most at-bats, top 10, in their career the most at bats. Number 1, Pete Rose, over 14,000. 2, Hank Aaron, 12,000. Carl Yastrzemski, close to 12. Cal Ripken, 11,500. Ty Cobb, 11,400. Eddie Murray, 11,003. Derek Jeter, 11,002. Adrian Beltre, one of the present day players, 11,000 at bats. Robin Yount, 11,000. And Dave Winfield, 11,000. Those are the top 10 who hold the career mark for most at bats. For a season, one season in 2007, Jimmy Rollins had 716 at bats. That's a record. And then for one game, 2 players had 12 at bats in one game. Felix Millan and John Milner was a 25-inning game. They hold the record for most at bats in one game. How about that? Okay, let's move along here. Who holds the most career hits? You should know the top 10. Pete Rose, 4,200 over. Ty Cobb, 4,100. Hank Aaron, 3,700. I'm rounding off. Stan Musial, 3,600. Tris Speaker, 3,500. Derek Jeter, 3,400. Cap Anson, 3,400. Honus Wagner, 3,400. Carl Yastrzemski, 3,419. And Paul Molitor, 3,319. Those are the top 10. How about that? Pete Rose, 4,256 is the record. How about for a season? What's the record for most hits in a season? Ichiro Suzuki, 262 hits in the 2004 season. Not bad. And then for a game, who holds the record for most hits in a game? Johnny Burnett, number 9. I can't list all the teams they played for and all the years that they did it, because I want to get to a lot of these records, baseball records. So bear with me as we come along, okay? How about on base percentage? Who holds the record for the career on base percentage? Again, the top 10. Number 1 is Ted Williams, 48% for his career. That's almost half the time he got on base. Babe Ruth comes in at 47. John McGraw, 46. Billy Hamilton, 45. Lou Gehrig, 44. Bill Joyce, 43. Roger Hornsby, 43. Ty Cobb, 43. Jimmy Fox, 42. And Tris Speaker, 42%. On base percentage for their career. For the season, who holds the record? Ted Williams, 55% on base for one season, 1941 season. And then who got on base for one game the most? Johnny Burnett, 9 times got on base. That's remarkable. All right, let's keep coming along with baseball records. Let's see what you think of some of these records. How about slugging percentage? Who holds the career mark for the highest slugging percentage? Babe Ruth comes in at number 1, 689% slugging. Ted Williams, 63. Lou Gehrig, 63. Jimmy Fox, 60. Hank Greenberg, 60. Manny Ramirez, 58. Mike Trout, present-day player, 58. Joe DiMaggio, 57. Roger Hornsby, 57. And Larry Walker, played for the Rockies, 56%. Who holds the record for the highest slugging percentage in one season? Babe Ruth, 847. 1920 season, wow. And how about for one game? Highest slugging percentage in one game. It has to go to Shawn Green when he went 6 for 6, had 4 home runs, a double, and a single in one game. Slugging percentage, 1,000. Moving along with baseball records. Games played. Who are the top 10? Pete Rose comes in at number 1, over 3,500. I'm not going to give you exact numbers. I'm just going to round off, okay? Number 2, Carl Yastrzemski, 3,300. Hank Aaron, close to 3,300. Rickey Henderson, 3,000. Ty Cobb, 3,000. Eddie Murray, 3,000. Stan Musial, 3,000. Cal Ripken, 3,000. Willie Mays, 2,992. And Dave Winfield, 2,973 games. That's the top 10. And when I list the names, Pete Rose was number 1. And then as I list all the numbers, that's the order of games played. How about for a season? Maury Wills of the Dodgers in 1962 played 165 games. The regular season's 162, so they must have had 3 extra games playoff. Most games in a day played. Usually they play doubleheaders, but way back in the early part of the century, they used to play 3 games in one day. So that's a record. All right, baseball records. How about the most runs scored in a career? Number 1, Rickey Henderson, 2295. 2, Ty Cobb, 2200. Hank Aaron, 2174. Babe Ruth, 2174. Pete Rose, 2165. Willie Mays, 2000. Cap Hansen, played 27 years. He has 1,999 runs scored. Just missed the 2,000. Stan Musial, 1949. Derek Jeter, 1900. And Lou Gehrig, 1885. How about for a season? Who scored the most runs in one season? Billy Hamilton, 198. 1894 season. And for one game, Guy Heckler scored 7 runs in one game. That's a record. Moving along here, okay? Total bases for their career. Who's number 1? Hank Aaron, 6,856 bases total. And the next on the list, Stan Musial, 6,100. Willie Mays, 6,000. Albert Pujols, present day player, 5,863. Ty Cobb, 5,800. Babe Ruth, close to 5,800. Pete Rose, 5,700. Carl Yastrzemski, 5,500. Eddie Murray, almost 5,400. And number 10, Frank Robinson, 5,300 run total. This is total bases. Wow. How about for a season? Who had the most bases in one season? Babe Ruth, 457 bases in 1921. Wow. And how about for a game? Total bases in one game? Shawn Green, 19 bases in one game. All right, moving along here. Singles. Who had the most singles in their career? Pete Rose, number 1, 3,215. Ty Cobb, over 3,000. Eddie Collins, 2,600. Cap Anson, 2,600. Derek Jeter, close to 2,600. Ichiro Suzuki, 2,500. Willie Keeler, 2,500. Honus Wagner, 2,400. Rod Carew, 2,400. And number 10, Tris Speaker, 2,383. Those are singles in their career. How about for a season? Who had the most? 2004, Ichiro Suzuki, 225 singles. And for a game, many players have gotten 6 singles in one game. Too many players to list there, okay? How about doubles? Who has the most doubles in their career? Tris Speaker comes in at number 1 at 792. Followed by Pete Rose, 746. Stan Musial, 725. Ty Cobb, 724. Craig Biggio, 668. George Brett, 665. Albert Pujols, still playing, 661. Nap Lajoie, 657. Carl Yastrzemski, 646. And Honus Wagner, round out, 643. Top 10 doubles. In a season, who had the most? 1931, Earl Webb, 67 doubles in one season. And in a game, many players have gotten 4 doubles in a game. Nobody's gotten 5 doubles in a game. But many players, 4 doubles in a game. Okay, triples. Who holds the record for the most triples in their career? A guy named Sam Crawford comes in at number 1 at 309 triples. followed by Ty Cobb, 297, Honus Wagner, 252, Jake Beckley, 244, Roger Connor, 233, Tris Speaker, 222, Fred Clark, 220, Dan Brothers, 206, Joe Kelly, 194, and Paul Weiner, 191. Those are triples in their career. For a season, who holds the record? Happened in 1912. A guy named Chief Wilson had 36 triples in one season. And for a game, two players have gotten 4 triples. George Streif and Bill Joyce. That's a record for one game. Coming to home runs now. We know who's number 1 on that list. Top 10. I'm not including the steroid players. And there's about 4 of them, 5 of them, that their stats are in question. So I'm going to go with the legitimate stats, okay? My apologies if you disagree. But those players who hit a lot of home runs are not in the Hall of Fame. They make the Hall of Fame, then they'll be on my list. Okay? But for the home runs, here we go. Hank Aaron, 755. Babe Ruth, 714. Willie Mays, 660. Albert Pujols still playing, 656. Ken Griffey Jr., 630. Jim Thome, 612. Frank Robinson, 586. Harmon Killebrew, 573. Reggie Jackson, 563. And Manny Ramirez comes in at number 10 at 555. Career home runs. And then for the season, who holds the record? My apologies to those steroid players. I'm not going to include you. I wish I could. I really do. But I question the stats because of the extra juice in their system. So I'm just going to go with Roger Maris, 61 home runs in 1961. He holds the record. And for a game, many players, 18 times players have hit 4 home runs in a game, and that's a record. No one's hit 5. When they do, they'll be number 1 as far as a game. Okay, runs batted in. Who holds the career record for runs batted in? Hank Aaron comes in at 2297. Babe Ruth, 2214. Cap Anson, 2,000 RBIs. Albert Pujols, 2000. Lou Gehrig, 1995. Stan Musial, 1900. Ty Cobb in the 1900s. Jimmy Fox, 1900. Eddie Murray, 1900. And Willie Mays. That rounds out the top 10. 1900 RBIs. For a season, who holds the record? Hack Wilson, 191 RBIs in 1930. Whew. And for a game, 2 players hold the record with 12 RBIs in one game. Jim Bottomley and Mark Whiten. Both have 12 RBIs in one game, a record. Walks is next. Who holds the career record for most walks in a career? Rickey Henderson comes in at 2190. Babe Ruth, 2000. Ted Williams, 2000. Joe Morgan, 1800. Carl Yastrzemski, 1800. Jim Thome, 1700. Mickey Mantle, 1700. Mel Ott, 1700. Frank Thomas, 1600. And Eddie Yosh round out the top 10. 1600 RBIs. I'm not giving the exact number. I'm just saying that how many generally they had. And the order of the name that I list is the order of what RBIs they have, okay? How about for a seat? Or no, that one's on walks. So how about the season? Who got the most walks in one season? Babe Ruth had 170 in 1923. Whew. And for a game, many players hold the record with 6 walks in one game. All right, stolen bases. Who holds the career record? Rickey Henderson comes in at 1406, number 1. Then you get Lou Brock, 900. Billy Hamilton, 900. Ty Cobb, 897. Tim Raines, 800. Vince Coleman, 750s. Arlie Latham, 740s. Eddie Collins, 740s. Matt Carey, 730s. And Honus Wagner round out number 10 at 723 stolen bases for their career. For a season, who holds the record? This happened in 1887. You may question some of those records, but this guy stole 138 bases in 1887. His name is Hugh Nickel. It's in the record book, 138 stolen bases. And for a game, who holds the record? Billy Hamilton and George Gore, 7 stolen bases in one game. Wow, hard to do. You got to get on base, and then you got to steal it. Extra base hits in one season, in a career. Strange stat. Extra base hits, home run, doubles, triples, and then you add all the singles. Hank Aaron comes in at number 1 at 1477. Stan Musial, 1377. Babe Ruth in the 1300s. Al Pujols, 1300s. Willie Mays, 1300s. Ken Griffey Jr., 1192. David Ortiz, 1192. Lou Gehrig, 1100s. Frank Robinson, 1100s. And Carl Yastrzemski, number 10, 1157. Extra base hits. How about that stat? For a season, who holds the record? Babe Ruth, 119 extra base hits, 1921 season. What a season. And who holds the record for one game? Shawn Green had 5 extra base hits, 4 home runs and a double. Ooh. Plate appearances is next on the baseball records. Who holds the record? Again, I'll round off on the numbers, but Pete Rose comes in at number 1, 15,890 plate appearances. Carl Yastrzemski, almost 14,000. Hank Aaron, almost 14,000. Ricky Henderson, 13,000. Ty Cobb, 13,000. Cal Ripken, 12,800. Eddie Murray, 12,800. Stan Musial, 12,700. Derek Jeter, 12,600. And Craig Biggio, 12,504. Round out the top 10 of plate appearances as a record. How about for a season? Jimmy Rollins, 2007, had 778 plate appearances. Wow. And for a game, 2 players, they played a 25-inning game. Felix Millan and John Milner both had 12 plate appearances in one game. The average is 4. Times on base. How about that record? Who holds the record for most times on base? Pete Rose comes in number 1, 5929. Second, Ty Cobb, 5,500. Ricky Henderson, 5,300s. Carl Yastrzemski, 5,300s. Stan Musial, 5,200s. Hank Aaron, 5,200s. Tris Speaker, 4,998. Babe Ruth, 4,900s. Eddie Collins, 4,800s. And Willie Mays, number 10, 4,791. That is times on base. For a season, who holds the record? Babe Ruth, 379 times on base in the 1923 season. And for a game, how many times did a guy get on base? Who holds the record? Johnny Burnett, 9 times in one game got on base. It was an extra inning game. Hit by the pitch. Who holds the record for being hit by the pitch the most? Huey Jennings, old school, 287 times he got hit by the pitch. Craig Biggio comes in at 285. Tommy Tucker, 270s. Don Baylor, 260s. Jason Kendall, 250s. Ron Hunt, 240s. Dan McGann, 230s. Chase Utley, 204. Frank Robinson, 198. And Minnie Minoso, 192 times got hit by the pitch. How about for a season? That's Hugh Jennings again. 1896 got hit by the pitch 51 times. And in a game, most times hit by a pitch in a game, many players just hold the record at 3 times they got hit by a pitch. If a guy gets hit by a pitch the 4th time, he'll hold the record, but so far it's 3. Sacrifice flies. These are all offensive stats I'm going through. Who holds the record for most sacrifice flies? Man on third, less than 2 outs, and a man hits a fly ball to the outfield, and the guy on third scores. That's called a sacrifice fly, and you get an RBI. Who holds the record? Eddie Murray, 128 of them. 102, Cal Ripken, 127. Robin Yount, 123. Hank Aaron had 121. Frank Thomas, 121. George Brett, 120. Ruben Sierra, 120. Rusty Staub, 119. Andrew Dawson, 118. And Don Baylor, 115. Round out the top 10 sacrifice flies for their career. For a season, who holds the record? Gil Hodges, 1954, had 19 sacrifice flies. And for a game, many players have gotten 3 sacrifice flies in one game, so no big deal there. How about intentional walks? This is a strange stat. Who comes in number 1? Albert Pujols, who is still playing today. 311 intentional walks. Stan Musial, 298. Hank Aaron, 293. Willie McCovey, 260. Vladimir Guerrero, 250. Ken Griffey Jr., 246, Mariners. Ted Williams, 243. Miguel Cabrera, 234. George Brett, 229. And Willie Stargell comes in at number 10 at 227, intentional walks. For a season, who holds the record? Willie McCovey, 45 intentional walks, 1969. And for a game, who holds the record? Andrew Dawson, 5 times intentionally walk. I hate that stat. I hate it when a pitcher intentionally walks someone. The manager calls it and tells the pitcher, hey, you can't get the guy out, so put him on base. They're cowards. If you're a pitcher, you should not be afraid to face any batter. And the intentional walk is the worst thing that ever happened to baseball. That should be outlawed. Come on. The pitcher is dominant and the hitter is dominant, and who wins the battle? Pitcher or batter? Do away with the intentional walk. If you're a pitcher, you should not be afraid to face anybody. I don't care if he's Superman from Krypton. You throw him a pitch and try to get him out. That's why you're a pitcher. Intentionally walk? Ridiculous. All right, home runs per at bat. How about this stat? Who holds the record for most home runs per at bat? Babe Ruth comes in number 1 every 11 times at bat. A record. Jim Thome every 13. Carlos Stanton every 13 at bats. Ralph Kiner 14. Harmon Killebrew 14. Ted Williams 14. Chris Davis still playing 14. Manny Ramirez 14. Adam Dunn 14. And Ryan Howard close to 15 times. Every at bat they hit a home run. That's their percentage. For a season, who holds the record? 1920. What a year for the Babe. Every 8 times he came to the plate, he got a home run. Now, they walked him a lot. So if you do away with the walks and the legitimate stat, every 8 times Babe Ruth hit a home run. All right, I've got some other miscellaneous records that are very, very interesting. Who holds the record for reaching base consecutively? Ted Williams. 16 times in a row he reached base. 2 singles, 4 homers, 9 walks, and was hit by a pitch. That's 16 times in a row he reached base. Ted Williams, that's a record. Hitting streak, we know that. Top 10, you want to hear? Joe DiMaggio, 56. Pete Rose, 44. Bill Dalian, 1894, had 42 in a row. George Sisler, 41. Ty Cobb, 40 games. Paul Molitor, 39 games. Tommy Holmes, 37 games. Ty Cobb comes in at number 8 with another 35-game hitting streak. Luis Castillo, 35 games. And Chase Utley round out number 10 for the longest hitting streaks in a season, 35 games. How about this stat? Most consecutive games reaching base safely. How many games in a row? Ted Williams. 84 games in a row he got on base. Whether the hit, walk, hit by the pitch, whatever he did, he got on base. 84 games in a row. That won't be broken. Most consecutive hits. How about this stat? Guy named Walt Roper got 12 consecutive hits in 3 games. 12 hits in a row. So he didn't walk, didn't get hit by the pitch, and didn't make an out for 12 straight at-bats. That's a record. Consecutive games hitting a home run. Who holds the record for how many games in a row you hit a home run? 3 guys have done it. For 8 games in a row, Dale Long, Don Mattingly, and Ken Griffey Jr. all hit a home run in 8 consecutive games. That's an interesting stat. How about this stat? Consecutive games without a strikeout. 115 by Joe Sewell, played for the Indians in 1929. 115 games in a row, not striking out. A record. How about this stat? Consecutive games with 2 or more hits. A guy named Count Campion of St. Louis in 1890 had 15 games in a row with 2 or more hits. Pretty impressive stat. Played in the 1890s. Again, you may question the 1800s, but it's still a ball game back then. There's still dominant pitchers, because you'll see when I get to the pitching records. And to play a baseball game is hard enough. And this guy got 15 games in a row with 2 or more hits. That's a record. And I've got him on my list here, okay? How about consecutive games with 3 or more hits in a game? Well, 3 guys have done it. They've gone 6 games in a row with 3 or more hits. Sam Thompson, Jimmy Johnson, and George Brent had 6 games in a row where they had 3 or more hits. Very good stat. Consecutive games with an RBI. A guy named Ray Grimes of the Cubs in 1922 had 17 games in a row with 1 or more RBIs. Very good stat. Consecutive games with a walk. A guy named Roy Cullenbine of the Tigers had 22 games in a row where he had 1 walk. Wow. Most 2 home run games in a career. 2 home runs in 1 game. Who holds the record for doing it the most? Babe Ruth, 72 times. Most 3 home run games. Johnny Mize had 6 3 home run games in his career. And who holds the record for grand slams? Lou Gehrig, 23 grand slams for a career. How about the longest home run hit? It's debatable. Well, according to the record book, in 1921, a guy named Babe Ruth hit a 575-foot home run. They say Mickey Mantle hit a 600-footer, but they couldn't measure it, because Mantle's ball went out of the park and landed in some field, but nobody measured it. But with the Babe, they did measure a 575-footer. He holds the record. All right, we're going to get to pitching records, okay? Won't take too long. But let's see how that comes in. Who holds the record for pitching records? Well, we know the wins. Cy Young, 511. Walter Johnson, 417. Grover Cleveland Alexander, 373. Christy Mathewson, I liked him, 373. Bud Calvin, you're going to hear his name a lot, 365. Warren Spahn, 363. Kid Nichols, 362. Greg Maddux, 355. Tim Keefe, 342. And Steve Carlton, 329 wins. All these guys hold the record for career. How about for a season? 1884, you may question it, but it's a record. A guy named Hoss Radbourn won 60 games one season. How did he do it? Pitched every day or every other day. That's what they did back then. Today they don't. 60 wins in one season. You may question the legitimacy, but I believe it. They played baseball back then. You got 9 guys on the field. You've got a pitcher and you've got hitters, and you play a 9-inning game. They kept the stats. This guy won 60 games. I don't know how, but he did. Okay, ERA. Who comes in number 1 on the ERA? Interesting. Eddie Walsh, for his career, 1.81 ERA. Wow. Eddie Joss, number 2, 1.8. Jim Devlin, 1.89. Jack Pfizer, 2. Smokey Joe Wood 2, Mordecai Brown 2, John Ward 2, Christy Masterson 2, Al Spalding 2, and Tommy Bond round out the number 10 as ERA 2. Wow. For a season, who holds the record? You think it's Bob Gibson at 1.12? Well, that's recent. But according to the record books, a guy in 1880 had an ERA for one season at 0.85. How many games did he pitch? We don't know. But he's in the record books. And if he's in there, Tim Keefe holds the record. I think Bob Gibson had one of the best seasons of all time, 1.12. But I'm going to put Tim Keefe as far as holding the record for one season. Winning percentage. Who holds the record for winning percentage? Al Spalding, 79% winning percentage in his career. 2, Spud Chandler, 71. Clayton Kershaw, still playing for the Dodgers right now, present day player, 69%. Whitey Ford, 69. Dave Fouts, 69. Bob Carruthers, 68. Pedro Martinez, 68. Don Gullett, 68. Lefty Grove, I like that guy, 68. And Jay Hughes, 67% winning percentage for their career. Who holds the season single best winning percentage of all time? A guy named Roy Face had a 94% winning percentage for the season. He went 18-1. Too bad he lost that one game. 1959. All right, innings pitched. Who holds the record? You should know, Cy Young, 7,356 innings. 2, Bud Calvin, remember him, 6,000. Walter Johnson, close to 6,000. Phil Niekro, 5,400. Nolan Ryan, close to 54. Gaylord Perry, 53. Don Sutton, 52. Warren Spahn, 5,200. Steve Carlton, 5,200. And Grover Cleveland Alexander, close to 5,200 innings pitched. Again, I'm rounding off. I'm not giving exact numbers. Okay. How about for a season? Who holds the record for most innings in one season? Will White, 1879, way back when. You may question it. I don't. He pitched 680 innings in one season. 680. Most players today are in 200, maybe 250. 680. 1879. They played baseball back then. Okay, I know you guys are screaming at me and saying what's going on, but I'm gonna put that as a record. All right, for a game, who pitched the most innings in one game? There was a 26 inning game in 1920. It was a 1-1 tie. Leon Cador and Joe Oskalager, both of them pitched 26 innings in one game. 1-1 tie, called after darkness, and nobody finished the game. Wow, 26 innings in one game. That won't happen again. Game started for a career. Cy Young, 815, number 1. Nolan Ryan, 773. Don Sutton, 756. Greg Maddux, 740. Phil Niekro, 716. Steve Carlton, 709. Tommy John, 700. Gaylord Perry, 690. Bud Calvin, that name again, 688. And Bert Blyleven, 685. Games started for their career. And for the season, who holds the record? 1883. Bud Calvin, that name, started 75 games in one season. How about that? Starts 75. And they played 154. 1883. I'll have to look to see if maybe they only played 120 or 130 back then, but if you start 75 of them, that's pitching every day, every other day. That's what they did. Games played. This is an interesting stat. For a pitcher, games played. Jesse Orosco, 1,252 games played as a pitcher. Mike Stanton, 1,100. John Franco, 1,100. Mariano Rivera, remember that name, 1,100. Dennis Eckersley, 1,071. Hoyt Wilhelm, 1,000. Dan Plezek, 1,000. Mike Timlin, 1,000. Ken Tecumseh, 1,000, and Latroy Hawkins, 1,000. So all these guys for their career pitched in over thousands, played in a game over 1,000 times. For a season, who owns the record for most games in one season? Mike Marshall of the Dodgers. 1974, played in 106 games as a pitcher. Whew. Complete games. What do we got here? Cy Young comes in at number 1, 749 complete pitching games. Whew. Bud Calvin, that name, 646. Tim Keefe, 554. Kid Nichols, 532. Walter Johnson, 531. Bobby Matthews, 525. Mickey Welsh, 525. Hoss Rayborn, 488. John Clarkson, 485, and coming in number 10, Tony Malone, 468 complete games in their career. For a season, who holds the record? 1879. Strange. Will White completed 75 games. That's a record. Strikeouts. Who holds the record? Nolan Ryan. You should know that. 5,714. Randy Johnson, 4,800. Steve Carlton, 4,100. Bert Blyleven, 3,700. Tom Seaver, 3,600. Don Sutton, 3,500. Gaylord Perry, 3,500. Walter Johnson, 3,500. Greg Maddux, 3,300. And Phil Niekro, 3,300 strikeouts. For a season, who holds the record? You think it's Nolan Ryan at 383? Well, everyone thinks so, but nope. 1886, a guy named Matt Kilroy struck out 513 batters. How about that? And for a game, who holds the record? Tom Chaney, 21 strikeouts in 16-inning game. Shutouts. You should know this. Walter Johnson, 110. Pete Alexander had 90. Christy Mathewson, 79. Cy Young, 76. Eddie Plank, 69. Warren Spahn, 63. Nolan Ryan, 61. Tom Seaver, 61. Bert Blyleven, 60. And Don Sutton, 58. Shutouts for their career. Who holds the record for the season? Grover Cleveland Alexander, 16 shutouts in one season. Saves. You should know this one. Mariano Rivera, 652 in his career. Trevor Hoffman, 600. Lee Smith, 470s. Francisco Rodriguez, 430s. John Franco, 420s. Billy Wagner, 420s. Dennis Eckersley, 390. Joe Nathan, 377. Jonathan Papillon, 368. And Jeff Reardon, 367. For a season, Francisco Rodriguez, 62 saves. Batters faced, Cy Young holds the record. 29,565 batters faced. Ridiculous. Bud Calvin, there he is, 25,000. Walter Johnson, 23,000. Phil Niekro, 22. Nolan Ryan, 22,000. Bobby Matthews, 21. Gaylord Perry, 21. Steve Carlton, 21. Don Sutton, and Warren Spahn, all in the 21,000s. For a game, Will White faced 2,906 batters. And that was for a season, Will White, 2,906. And for a game, Leon Cador faced 92 batters in one game. Wow. Here's some miscellaneous. Most games in a career with 10 or more strikeouts. Nolan Ryan, 148 games, 10 or more. Most games in a career with 15 strikeouts. Randy Johnson, 29 of them. Most strikeouts by a pitcher in a row. Tom Seaver, 10 in a row. Most 300 strikeout seasons. Nolan Ryan, 6. 8 straight 10 strikeout games. Chris Sale and Pedro Martinez. Most no-hitters. Nolan Ryan, 7. Most seasons of 20 or more wins, Cy Young, 15. Most consecutive wins by a pitcher, Carl Hubble, 24 games in a row. And the fastest ball thrown by a pitcher, Aroldis Chapman, 105 miles an hour. And who holds the most baseball records? Ty Cobb, 90 Major League Baseball records. All right, what do I want to see broken? I want to see a person hit 5 home runs in one game, and I want to see a person hit or have 2 perfect games in their career. And I want to see a person beat the batting average of 440 in one season. And that's by Hugh Duffy. Those are the records I want to see broken. Okay, thanks for watching. Ken Artizone, I'm out.